Good afternoon, ladies. Today I am going to be making an altered bottle. I did have a request to do an altered bottle. So what I've done is taken an empty olive oil bottle and I coated the bottle with gesso, a couple good coats. Then I took some strips of gauze and I put them on there using, you could use Mod Podge. I used paint in this instance and used kind of a creamy color just to give it that aged look over top of the gesso. I'm not sure if the camera is actually picking up the difference in the color variation, but I wanted it to have an aged feeling. So what I did is, like I said, I took a couple of coats of gesso, painted it white, and then overlaid it with the stretched out gauze that I applied using the paint. It's a creamy color paint. You could use white. You could use any color that you wanted to do. That's how I prepared the bottle ahead of time, just to save time so that this video didn't run too long and you weren't sitting here watching paint dry. So the next step that we're going to take is to use some of the laces that you can find at Creating with Details. And what I've done is I took some of the laces, and these come, this particular piece was white, and I simply coffee dyed it to give it that aged vintage look. And that's the whole thing that I was going for with this bottle, is to give it a vintage feel. I've cut a couple of pieces off of the lace, which comes in a large piece like this. And as you can see on the top here, there's an extra little piece which I took off of these pieces here. So the first piece that I cut this in shape to fit around the top of the bottle right here. So I'm going to take my glue gun, and hopefully it's warm enough, and going to attach the lace right to the top where the top of the bottle went, and just line up the lace just like this. And this does not have a particular front or back on the bottle. It's all pretty much the same. So we just keep adding the glue, and you could use any kind of adhesive that you'd like to use. I am using, for demonstration purposes for this video, I am using the Surebonder Detail Glue Gun, which also is available at Creating with Details, and this is a wonderful detail gun. And while no glue gun is completely string free, because I know we all hate getting wrapped up in spider webs, this particular one has fewer than the others that I've used. So this is just where these come together here. I'm just going to add a dab of glue just to keep it straight. And I'm not doing this to fit this part of the neck of the bottle, just the top of it. The next thing I'm going to do is to take some of these flat back pearls, which you can also get at Creating with Details, and I'm just going to glue a strand around the top of the bottle like this. Again, using the glue gun, just to apply a dab of glue. And this is just to give it that finished look. Add a little bit of bling. Although it's not shiny, it still is pearls. And what woman doesn't like pearls? I know I do. And just continue to add them. And when you get to the end, you simply take your scissors where the two ends meet and cut it off. Oh, my bottle's rolling away. Now there are tons and tons and tons of ideas for altered bottles. on Pinterest, on YouTube, and each and every one of them is simply gorgeous. They're all beautiful. This is just my take on an altered bottle using what I had on hand. And using some of the laces and trims and things that Creating with Details has. I'm actually using up a great deal of the laces that May was carrying up to this point, because we've got all kinds of new goodies coming in, and I was lucky enough to get a sneak peek to see what's coming. Now, I'm going to take another layer of this same lace, and what I'm going to do to get this to lay flat is right here. It looks like a little heart in between each one of these pieces. I'm simply going to cut that sort of like you do with sewing, so that when you have a round surface, you just sort of cut a little diagonal so that they lay flatter when you try to put it around a round surface. So I'm just going to do that with each one of these, and then I'm going to use the glue gun again to apply this. And what I'm going to do here is, because I want this to overlap the next layer, I'm just going to lift this trim up as best that I can and glue this underneath it. I will also be gluing the bottom so that it lays completely flat. Now, my fingers are almost completely impervious to glue at this point using the hot glue gun, but if you do have sensitive fingers, you could use the end of your scissors, or they have some of these marvelous glue tools that I've seen advertised. I haven't gotten any yet, just because I don't really need them. But some people might have, very sensitive fingers, and these do get quite warm, so I'm just going to continue to glue the second layer on here. Lift the first layer out of the way so it kind of hangs over. Now, before I cut that, I want to see how it's fitting. See how it gives that kind of a leafy look to it right here. So I've done that all the way around. Now here, I'm going to cut this off right at this point, and I will overlap the piece, the beginning and the end of this lace piece. And this is where you might have to do a little fidgeting to get it to fit, so that it doesn't look like you have this huge overlap here. And just continue to glue and tack it, so that when you get around to this point here where you've got your edge, you're just going to glue right here all the way down, so that when it overlaps, you don't see that. And there we go. Those are the first two layers of lace. Now save these little pieces that you cut off of all of your lace, because who knows, we may even use this on here somewhere, but these come in so handy for other projects. You just never ever know when you might need a little piece of lace, and these have such a gorgeous little ending on it, almost like a dangle. You could even turn these into a pair of earrings if you wanted to. Okay, so that is that piece. Now, the next step is to take this piece that I've prepared, and this is another piece of trim that you can find at Creating with Details. And it is open. It's an open weave, so that you can put in a ribbon or another piece of lace, whatever you'd like to do. I didn't have any ribbon that I particularly liked that would work with this project. So what I did was just take a piece of curtain, a sheer curtain that I had laying around, and I just cut strips of it, and I took the edges and just ran it over a candle so that it would seal it and keep it from fraying. And I kind of like the look of it. It looks old and it looks vintage. So you can take what you have and kind of make it work. So this is what it looks like after I have woven that little piece of curtain in there. Now this piece is going to go right here on this edge. So we're just going to find our backside, if there is a backside. It's what I like to call the backside. And we're going to glue it right along this little lip here, all the way around the bottle. Again, using the glue gun. We're just going to add a dab of glue here. And I don't want to glue down the edges of the ribbon. I'm only going to glue in the center of this. And when you're doing this, make sure that your center ribbon stays straight. I've done that where I've gotten something put together and look at it and go, oh no, the ribbon is straight. And once you've glued it down, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So just kind of keep an eye on that as you're doing it. And just continue all the way around with your trim. Looks like I'm going to have to get another glue stick here. Again, you could use any kind of adhesive that you want to use. There's Fabri-Tac. You could even use E6000, which I'm impatient. Now there is a piece that we're going to be putting on here. I need another glue stick that I will use E6000 on. It's a piece of metal that I'm going to be applying. Now when you get to the end here, you're simply going to attach, just glue all of the ends down. Like this. So I'm just going to continue to run a bead here because that didn't stick very well. And just adhere some glue to the ends so that it looks like it was one continuous piece. And that's what it looks like now. Now the next piece that we're going to do is the bottom, which I'm using the same exact trim. And there is two different sides to this. There's this side, which has this little, looks like a little flower. And then on the reverse side is just a bar. And all I did with this is just take this ribbon and go in and out over top of the bar here in the back and underneath this. And that's all I did to weave this together. Now I'm going to do the same process that I just did with this piece down here on the very bottom of the bottle. See, I'm having trouble even seeing. I'm going to cut this extra piece of trim off. And this time, if you notice, these have little points on this ribbon right here. This, on the top here, I have these points facing down. On the bottom, I'm going to have them facing up. So I'm going to start back here again with this trim and just put a dab of glue and adhere these two ends here. Because when you cut this, you do have little loose ends on the trim, and I just want to adhere those. Okay, now we're just going to continue adding the glue and gluing down the center. Again, making sure that your center ribbon or whatever it is that you're using in this piece of lace I think this is like a bridal lace, if I'm not mistaken, which is just, there are so many uses for this particular lace. I absolutely love it. And glue this down. I have to push my glue gun or glue stick in. Make sure that when you get to the end, that piece of, I'm going to call this ribbon, is underneath the lace. So there's the lace trim so far. Now we're going to take a piece of, and I can see little areas, like this particular piece of trim wants to stick up, and I don't want it sticking up. So I'm just going to take a dab of glue and glue those down so that they don't stick up in the air, because I don't think that's very attractive. And I'm also going to do the same thing. I said I wasn't going to do this, but I am going to glue all around the top of this trim, just because it's a little too open, and this will make it adhere to the bottle a little bit better, so it looks like it's more fitted. And you may have to just make tiny little gathers. There's another one that wants to flip up. So anywhere you see little pieces that you don't like the way they look, just take a little bit of glue, and you only need a tiny little bit, and just glue it down so that it doesn't look like you have wings on your bottle. So that is all there is to that. And I'm going to do the same thing to this bottom piece. Oh, I have glue strings everywhere. I think I get more glue on me than I get on my projects sometimes. So I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom. Just run a bead of glue and glue these edges down so that they don't have any gaps in them. Sometimes using a glue gun, I feel like I'm wrapped in a spider web. Just so long as there's no spiders, I'm good, because I do not like spiders. I'm a big chicken when it comes to spiders. And I was talking about some of the gorgeous new vintage, well, they're not new, they're new to the store. The vintage items that are coming in, some of them have already come in, and I was lucky enough to get a sneak peek of some of these items, and they are absolutely gorgeous. I cannot wait to start working with them. For those of you who love vintage, who love shabby chic, like I do, you are going to love, love, love these laces. Now, the next piece that I'm going to do is a piece of metal. Now, these come, there's so many different styles and sizes, and I will, in the description box below, put a link to all of the products that I've used, so that you can order these. Now, the store will be closed as of the 15th of this month until I believe the 17th of June, because May is moving. She's moving back home, which we're all so excited for her. And so you will have to, just kind of keep track of the items that you want to order, unless you get in there quick and order them before the store closes. You do still have a few days. But the metals, when you get them, and these are all brass pieces, they come like this, and they're flat, and they're, this color. What I did with this particular piece here is, and these are not really easy to bend, but they're not impossible to bend. They're very, very solid pieces of brass. What I did was to take some of the Gilder's paste that is also carried at Creating with Details, and I just gave it a coat of the, this is copper, the copper Gilder's paste, and I just gave it a coat of that, and then I heat set it and then took this particular piece of metal and framed it around the bottle. Now to get these little ends here to go in, I used a pair of jewelry making tool, which is used for making jump rings, and simply took this and very gently just curved it so that it fits around the bottle. And that was all there was to that. Now I am going to patina this just a little bit more. I'm going to use some of the, another, it's called patina, another one of the Gilder's paste. And as you can see, it's blue. And I'm just going to use my finger, I think I must have dropped this, and just highlight some of these areas just to give it that aged patina look. I happen to love this look, this patinaed look. It gives it that older feeling, the aged vintage feeling, and just highlight it. You can put on as much or as little of this as you want, and these Gilder's paste come in several different colors. I've done the copper and now the patina on this. There's also an antique gold, a violet, and they're all these things are so creamy. They almost like they smell like a shoe polish, but they go on so creamy. Now to set this, all you have to do, and I'll be quick about this because I know it's noisy. Let me grab my towel here and get some of this off. Just take your heat gun and just hit it with the heat gun. And this is just to set that patina, to heat set it so that it doesn't dry or rub off later on. Now I'm not going to sit here and do the entire thing just because of time's sake. I'm trying to keep the video as short as possible so people don't lose interest. But if you were doing this at home, you might want to take a little bit more time. And also, when you do that with these metals, be very careful because it does get hot. Now, on this one, I am going to use the E6000 to attach this just because it's much stronger than a glue gun. But because of time, I'm going to cheat a little bit and add some hot glue to the edges so that I don't have to sit and hold it, because it does take a little bit of time for it to dry. This will give me a chance to continue to work on the piece, and the hot glue will hold it in place while I'm working. And you just want to get it wherever it's going to make contact with the bottle. The indented areas you don't have to worry about because there's no place for adhesion there. Now I'm also on the very edges of this going to take some hot glue. This is just to give it a little holding power while the rest of it dries. And I'm going to apply that right here, like that. And I will hold it for just a second so that glue has a few minutes to dry, or a few seconds. Doesn't take it long. And there you have it. There's the patinaed, or antiqued, if you want to call it that, metal. And I do see a few areas here that I'm going to have to work on, but for video's sake, I'm just going to add more hot glue just to keep it on there while we work on the rest of it. This is cheating. And if you're making one of these for yourself or as a gift or to sell, you want to make sure that you take the time to use the E6000, because hot glue is susceptible to weather, to temperature changes, to humidity, So you want to make sure that this is not going to pop off when you go from cold to hot or on a really humid day. What happens is the hot glue melts again and your piece will drop off. Not good. So now I have another piece that is also found in Creating with Details, and this is a little medallion, which I also coffee dyed. And I'm just going to take that and glue it right here in the center of that metal piece. This is just to give it a more vintage look, because the metal by itself has a more contemporary feel, which is very pretty, but not the look that I'm going for on this particular bottle. So I just used some hot glue, and I'm going to center it right there on that piece of metal. And that gives it a little more of a vintage feel. In the center of that, I'm going to place a rolled rose, say that fast 3 times, that I did, again, I took a piece of that same curtain that I used here in the trim, and I just made a rolled rose and put it on the back of a little circle. So I'm going to take that and adhere that to the center of that medallion. And hold that down for a second. And there you have it. Now, the next thing that I have for the other side of the bottle, see, this is, you could call this the front or the back, whichever one that you prefer. On the opposite side, let's put it that way, on the opposite side of the bottle, I'm going to use a piece of vintage doily that I cut apart and coffee dyed. And this is just to give you an example of some of the things like what is going to be coming into Creating with Details for you to use on your projects. And I'm going to adhere that to the back. Let me make sure that I've got this straight. And again, using the hot glue, just glue down these little tips of the flowers. And that's the only place that I put the hot glue on these pieces, because I kind of like that roughly effect where it's not glued all the way down. I think that's pretty. Now on here, I'm going to take another rolled rose that I did with muslin and some little fibers and some other fabric that I had, and glue that on top of that doily. Just like that. I'm just going to hold it down for a second. Now there are dozens of flower videos out there. There's some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ones. May Larson, who owns Creating with Details, has done a gorgeous shabby chic flower. Vic is another one that just did a wonderful, gorgeous shabby chic flowers, and I will be putting the links to those at the bottom of the video as well, so that you can check out their tutorials, because they are so gorgeous and they're so inspiring. So here is what that part looks like. Now, I have taken some of the ribbon, not ribbon, curtain that I cut and singed and did like a triple bow right here. And I think I'm going to use that right here on the neck of the bottle, like that. above the rose. Just use a little bit. Before I do that, I'm getting ahead of myself. I have some pieces of pearl trim that comes in a roll that I had in my stash, and I am just going to put a dab of glue right here and glue those down. And this will just give the piece a little bit of movement, give it a little more of that shabbiness. And then on top of that, I will glue the little ribbon on top of here, like so. And in my opinion, no piece is complete without a little bit of bling. So I happen to have, and this was a button, was a shank button that I just cut the back off of, and I'm going to glue that right here in the center of that bow. I'll hold that for a second. But you can see that the bow gives it a little bit of movement. I'll stand this up. I think I can get it in camera so that you can see it. And you could glue these little pieces down if you wanted to. I kind of like them wild. So there we have that side. And here we have the other side with the metal. And this is kind of nice to do different things on each side of the bottle because you can change the look of the bottle just by turning it around. Now you could put another one of these, which I probably will do, another one of these ribbons, bows, on the other side, right here, so that it hangs over top of this metal as well. You could also take a piece of bling and put it here. You could glue some more flowers around this. It's limitless. The possibilities are absolutely limitless. But like I said, I just wanted to do a quick little video on an altered bottle using some of the products that were requested. I hope that you have enjoyed the video. I hope that it at least sparks some interest, that you might want to create one of your own. And please go and check out Creating with Details. The products that are there are absolutely gorgeous. The prices are unbelievably good. They're affordable. They're affordable for everybody. They're good quality, but not overly priced. And the other thing that is phenomenal about Creating with Details is the shipping. May ships, when your order comes in on Friday morning, she'll ship it, or Thursday evening, she'll ship it Friday morning. Now anything that comes in over the weekend won't go out, won't be shipped until Monday morning, because she does take the weekends off to spend with her family. So ladies, I hope that you have enjoyed this. This is just a quick idea on what you can do with your empty bottles. Until next time, have a blessed day. If you've enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe. Till then, bye-bye.